Greetings and welcome to our daily Devo for Thursday the 11th, I believe. No, it is the 12th of October today. And our devotion this morning is entitled Jesus and the Samaritan Woman at Sychar, Sychar. And this story actually gets a quick mention in this coming Sunday sermon. Jesus and the Samaritan woman at Sychar. That's found in John chapter 4. It's a great, great story. John chapter 4, verses 1 through 42. They quote for us here, verses 25 and 26. From that passage, the woman said, "I know that Messiah, called Christ, is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us." Then Jesus declared, "I, the one speaking to you, am he." What a revelation. This story is unique because of what Jesus said and where he said it. Time and place. Jesus was thirsty, and his simple request for a drink turned into a lengthy conversation ranging over a wide array of topics. Jesus and the Samaritan woman who came to draw water at midday spoke about water rights, the women's history of scarred relationships, and the appropriate place to worship. As the conversation became more personal and more uncomfortable, the Samaritan woman kept changing the topic to no avail. Been there, done that. So she looked for a way to bring it to a close and thought she had the perfect out. Let's wait for the arrival of the Messiah and let him provide the answers to all the questions. A powerful revelation follows. Jesus does something that the Gospels report him doing only one time. He verbally identified himself as the Messiah. "I, the one speaking to you, I am he," in verse 26. It is not just what Jesus said, but where he said it that increases the power of this one sentence sermon. From the start, this story signals that place is important. John tells us that Jesus was traveling between non-adjacent Roman districts, Judea and Galilee. And although Jesus had several other route options, John says that Jesus, quote, had to, unquote, had to travel through the district of Samaria, John 4, 3 and 4. That raises the unasked question. What was so important for him to do in Samaria? Meeting a woman at a well also signals that the location is important. She reminds us that there is an Old Testament history to this place involving Jacob, verses 5 and 6, and again in verse 12, and raises the topic of the worship conducted there in verse 20. That is when the light bulb flickers on. Old Testament Shechem and New Testament Sychar occupied the same mountain pass. It was here Abraham learned that Canaan was the promised land, the very place that his family would grow into a great nation and in which the Messiah would save the world from sin. Genesis 12, 1 through 7. Abraham and Sarah immediately built an altar and worshiped here. That makes Shechem/Sychar the location that had waited longer than any other in the promised land for the promise of the Savior to be realized. No wonder Jesus had to, quote unquote, had to come here. The woman got it, shared it, and then the village of Sychar got it. We know that this man really is the Savior of the world. John 4:42. It is, I've never sat and ranked my favorite stories in the Bible, favorite happenings in the Bible. But if I were to do that, I'm going to guess that John chapter 4 is got to be in the top 5 anyway. Just the awakening that happened for this woman, the life she lived, the abuse. In those days, women didn't have any rights at all, much like some other countries these days. So her predicament was probably more as a victim. This is my opinion. More of a victim than somebody who chose her multiple relationships and where her life had gone. To see the change and the transformation in her as she awakens, now I realize who you are. Especially after Jesus says, that's me. I'm the Messiah. I'm the one that you all have been waiting for, whether you're Samaritan or Jew. And off to town she goes and tells everybody, here's her testimony. I just met somebody who told me everything about myself. I don't know that I'd want to say that, especially with all of her baggage. He told me everything about myself. Whatever my opinion is, it got people's attention, and out they came. Out they came. He told me everything about myself. I think this is the one. This is the Messiah. And out they came. And they asked their own questions, is the way it should be. They asked their own questions. They confirmed it in their own hearts. This is him. This is him. I'm sure you're familiar with it, but read it again. It's a glorious, glorious story of the grace of Jesus, his willingness to sit alone. His disciples are shocked when they come back out. They went looking for food. When they come back out and he's sitting there talking to a woman, it shocks them. Jews don't do that. This is a Samaritan woman, and you're alone with her out here. It broke all the rules, and yet Jesus doesn't go by our rules. Jesus saw somebody who needed living water, and he stopped to offer it. He's a great Savior, isn't he? I'm glad he's been gracious to me in my life too. Blessings to you today.